EGM Network.
All right, here we go. 75. That's 75. 75.
Broadcasting from the golden shores of Vero Beach, Florida, this is the Vero Beach Auction Podcast with your host, David Kratzer.
Hi, and welcome to our very first podcast here. My name is David Kratzer, and I'm an owner of Vero Beach Auction. I have a special guest with me.
Hi, I'm Nancy Fitzgerald, and I'm also an owner of Vero Beach Auction. And I'm glad to be here with you, David.
So to start with, we've had the auction just about 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've been doing it myself almost 16 years. And we've been really fortunate to have an unbelievable amount of items that have come through the auction, some really interesting stories, met some neat people. And it just seems that, the longer we do this, the more stories we have to tell, especially with the uniqueness of our business. And that's how we kind of landed here.
That's right.
So I guess to start with, it's actually a fascinating story of how you came into the auction. Let's go ahead and talk about that.
Well, very interesting. I was taking care of my mom, who was terminal up in New Jersey, and she just liked to get out in the car and ride around, and we picked up a whole bunch of antiques and things like that. And after she passed, I came to Florida with a whole truckload filled with stuff and found out that there was an auction that was accepting antique collectibles. Drove up to Vero and dropped off the stuff, and as I was dropping it off, my husband was talking to the prior owner, and we get in the car, ride back home, and my husband said, "Do you know they're going to sell the auction at auction on Saturday night?" I said, "What are you talking about? I'm just dropping off stuff." He goes, "No, it's really interesting." He said, they're going to auction off the auction to the highest bidder on Saturday. And so fast forward, we go to the auction on Saturday and get a bidder card. Other people get bidder cards. Mine goes up, theirs goes up, mine goes up, theirs goes up, mine goes up, no one else's goes up. Next thing you know, my husband looks at me and he said, "Oh boy, we just bought an auction." And that's how it started.
And that was back when it was live-only auctions.
That was when it was live-only, no internet. And it was just a physical crowd there.
Yeah, and it's changed definitely in 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and we've always had the opportunity to get interesting, unusual items. And then I guess you had it about 3 years before you asked me to get on board.
Yes, I did.
And I remember, even when you had the auction, it was unusual because we didn't grow up with antiques or any of that stuff. So it was definitely a learning curve in a lot of different areas. And I remember joining the auction. It was June 2010. And then you're telling me.
That's a good memory there.
Yeah. Very vivid. But I remember you saying, "Now remember, you're going to auction school." And I was like, "Wait, I think I'm just going to try this out. Like, how do I jump right in?" I felt like once I got my auctioneer's license, it was, there's no going back from there. And, but in doing it for 16 years, it's been really an interesting and fun business. And again, with our podcast and ideas here, we really want to talk about a lot of these different stories and about auctions and all things going on. And a lot of it, too, is to connect with our buyers. We have a great network with buyers and collectors. And, being in Florida, we see a ton of really unusual and different items. A lot of people come down to Florida to retire. And even, with COVID, we had this big acceleration of people coming to Florida. And, I mean, from, antiques, collectibles, we've done Southwestern stuff.
Historic, I mean, you name it.
Yeah, all sorts of different stuff. It keeps us on our toes because we have these great unusual state auctions. And with that being said, there are a lot of different types of auctions, that do cars or real estate or, we specialize in those estate auctions and really highlight a great variety every sale. And the uniqueness, too, is that like I said, being in Florida, you just have this, our calls come from all over the place and you never know what someone's going to call or have to sell or have questions with.
Well, I had someone at one point said, "Geez, you're in Florida. Like, what would you find in Florida?" I said, "Well, people that move to Florida bring their most valuable pieces with them. And when they pass, these are the valuable pieces that are up on the auction block."
Yeah, yeah. And so a lot of the cool things with what we sell is that a lot of these items tell their own story. We talk a lot about, in our business, provenance and history, and it's really great to have things that can tell a story when you're selling the items, especially when we can deal directly with the owners, and the knowledge and experience they have just in handling some of these items. There's a couple interesting things recently that we had discussed, and to start with, one of our customers told us a fascinating story recently. I thought I had to share, and I think it really starts with turning what some people call trash into treasure, or discovering things that could have been thrown away, or given away, that people don't know is valuable. So just last week, someone came by and they were telling me a story about a Teddy Roosevelt signed letter from when he was with the Rough Riders, and there was a local estate that was getting ready to throw away a bunch of stuff. They were clearing it out. They had passed away, and one of the individuals helping had seen garbage bags and stuff getting thrown away, and they asked what is this stuff, and the people said, hey, we're just again looking to get rid of this stuff, and the person said, well, can I look through and go and do something with it? And they said sure. And so in searching through that stuff, it was this Teddy Roosevelt signed letter, and it was during the Spanish-American War. And so that individual had sold it to the gentleman that we had spoken with, and he said that about, I think it was 10 or 15 years ago, realized that the letter was important because the signature, was T. Roosevelt, or Colonel Teddy Roosevelt, unusual signature, which is what he thought was the value in that rare signature. But it turns out the letter itself was talking about someone that was killed during the Spanish-American War. And so the letter goes up for auction, and the gentleman gets called the next day from the auction house, and they said, your letter sold a lot better than we thought, and there was some serious active bidders, and they said the winning bidder was the National Archives in DC, and they ended up buying this letter because of the person that had passed away in the Spanish-American War, changed the course of history because they had thought it was originally a different soldier that had passed away. So to put it in their archives was amazing, especially going back to the original part of this story, is that this letter was about to get thrown away. So through discovery of auction and getting the right people, now we've preserved an important part of history. And with our business, it is important for us to locate and document some of these things and put them up for sale for getting the right buyers for them, or collectors or museums.
Well, speaking of up for sale, I mean, many, many years ago, we had a girl come in that was passing through a neighborhood, saw an old trunk out by the curbside, and she got out of the car and started looking through the trunk. And as she's looking through the trunk, she sees a whole bunch of interesting memorabilia. And the owners of the trunk came running out of the house. And so she's getting ready to run back in her car. And the owner said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I was just looking." And the owner said, No, there's no looking. You just take that whole trunk. You didn't do looking, just take the whole trunk.
Yeah, if you're looking through, you take it with you.
Took the whole trunk, and tell them what they found in the trunk, David.
Well, that was, another really exciting things that actually came through our auction was a General Custer, I think it was a travel album.
Yeah.
With an old cabinet card.
With a cabinet card.
Yeah. So here's another situation where there's an important historical item that's literally about to get thrown away. And I think what's difficult for people is, when you're mom, dad, or aunt and uncle, or whoever passes away, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of items in the estate. What do you do with it? Where do you go? And it's important to have a professional come in and help facilitate the sale. Whether it's bringing things to auction or just connecting with the right buyers, telling that story. And I think this will transition to our next talking point. But with these interesting stories, interesting items like that General Custer album or that Roosevelt letter, it's just amazing to me that these things were literally about to get thrown away, and now they've gone to the right buyers and collectors or the National Archives and preserved really an important part of history.
True.
On the flip side, we've gone in houses, and this happened to my neighbor recently a couple of years ago. My neighbors know I own the auction house, and they're always, jonesing to have me come over and look at certain things. And one of my neighbors was going to assisted living, and she said, "Come on over and take a look." And of course, you're always excited, oh, what's in the house? And she must have had 15 or 20 curio cabinets, like taller than me. I'm over 6 feet tall, and they were filled with dolls. I mean,
And I know how you like dolls, David.
Yeah, I stopped playing with dolls a long time ago. So from the small dolls to the antique dolls to there was just cabinets full of this stuff. And it's hard because, she collected these things her whole life, and there's really not a strong market for that stuff anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure what she ended up doing with it, but, unfortunately in a situation like that, you feel bad. Or, look at, Beanie Babies or some of the other things that have really gone the wayside, and it's crazy the hype behind some of that stuff that got it to be collectible. But the other thing is it is really fun to collect. So it's even better when you can collect something that someone else wants or that can increase in value. And sometimes it's just depending on the timing of things. Speaking of interesting stories, we have the 2 discovery items that we had, but one of the really interesting stories just came up the other day. We were talking about it was the gentleman that
not the Elvis.
Not that one. Not
No,
yet.
not
We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But he was on the naval ship that pulled Neil Armstrong from the water when he landed back from Earth. Yeah, from the capsule. So funny. Again, this is almost 16 years ago because I had first started when we had the sales call. And the couple actually had antique furniture, which back then we were semi-interested. Back when it was selling.
Right.
Now it's hard. We do sell some furniture here or there, but it's not really as collectible or sought after as it used to be. But that couple had that magnificent Victorian bedroom set.
Well, what was interesting was it was a full-size bed that 2 people slept in this full-size bed their whole life.
Yeah.
They were married, I think, 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
And it was from his parents. So
yeah.
So we had back years.
Yeah, we had gotten some of their antiques for auction, but the gentleman was telling us, so when they were pulling Neil Armstrong out from the water, he was actually recording it. And he had an old camcorder and was taking this video, and he said it was like one of the most exciting days of my life. Like, here I am, and you knew it was an important part of history, is to pull this astronaut onto our naval ship at the time. The unfortunate part is that he said when he was in the military, he mailed the reel back home, and it was lost somewhere in the mail. So in transit somewhere, this video unfortunately was
confiscated.
Maybe they didn't want
they didn't want it
let out. But so not only do we have these fascinating stories from the items we sell, but a lot of individuals we meet have some really fascinating stories too. And that's a great part of our business and working with some of the elderly, is that in their life and their timelines, they just really had these great things they want to share with people. And fortunately for us, we're able to come in and absorb some of these stories and hopefully pass these stories along. So moving into the next part, you mentioned the Elvis thing. A big part of why we feel it's important to go with a trusted auction house, and especially with the internet now, there's a lot of scary stuff out there. There's a lot of scams. There's a lot of fly-by-night, kind of dealers coming through, and people you don't really know who you're dealing with. And the benefit of selling with an auction that's reputable is that they're going to take care of you. They're going to market your items correctly. They'll do their best to authenticate. And that comes up a lot with our items because we do want the buyers to inspect or ask questions prior to. We don't sell new items. These are, not that we haven't sold something new in a box, but in general, these are used, they're antique, they have some age, they're vintage. So, conditions can vary and stuff like that. But we do our best to authenticate, to verify, and to sell reputable items because your reputation stands on that. You want people to feel comfortable with what they're buying and who they're buying from. And there's a lot of auction houses that I've seen over the years of doing this that I really just love to follow their auctions because I know their art's authentic. I know the items they have are authentic. They're trusted. They're a good source in the community, in the industry, for selling that. But there's a couple things recently that were brought up, and one was brought to us just in our last auction. And you want to tell us a little bit about what we thought it was before it came in? The prosthetic leg.
Oh, well, the person that brought it in said it was a Japanese prosthetic leg.
No, World War II.
World War II. World War II prosthetic leg. I've never seen anything like it. It looked really interesting, but
yeah, it's in our last catalog. We'll have to go back and look at it.
For quite a bit, and then I looked at it again and I thought, this can't be a leg. I go to put my leg in it. There's no way to put a leg in here. And I'm looking at it, I said, there's just no way. And it turns out it's a bow and arrow to hold the arrows.
The quiver holder.
A quiver holder.
Yeah.
And so here, the person that brought it in was so sure that it was a prosthetic leg holder.
Well, and the other thing, it had swastikas on it.
Yes.
So, we're more familiar, unfortunately, with the German swastika, but in the antiques and whatnot, especially in a lot of the Asian cultures, it's a good luck sign. It's very different meaning. And even in the Native American cultures, I've seen some of the like souvenir spoons and stuff with swastikas on them.
And the quiver on the bottom had that.
It had the swastika on the bottom, which is why we thought it was German. Right. Yeah. But yeah, it's pre World War II, the Japanese quiver, and with the swastika on like the Native American stuff, we actually had a Navajo rug one time that had the swastikas on it, and it sold for thousands of dollars. But again, when you can separate the negative connotation with what the other connotation could be, and even recently we had a Japanese print that had something on it. But again, it's a kind of a good fortune thing. And then going back to the what we thought was the prosthetic leg, which is the arrow quiver, was we had this recent specialized auction with some interesting Japanese stuff.
Samurai swords.
Yeah. So our normal auctions really encompass estates, right? So we do, like you mentioned, antiques, artwork, jewelry, collectibles, historical items. One of the main questions we get from people is, what do you sell? And I think one of the best things that you can sell is something interesting, something unusual, something historical. And I know it's a loaded question. You say, well, I sell antiques, and I have my antique furniture. And you're like, no, I have my antique dolls. No, I have these antique letters. Oh, what do they talk about? But with the recent Japanese auction we had a specialized collection from a local estate. Bob Leitner was a high-end Japanese sword collector. And that was one of our first experiences with a sword collection like that, which was amazing. I mean, we've, especially in season, Florida is much different season. A lot of people come down from different areas, and they spend, I guess, from November to March, really, we have this resurgence of people in Florida. But we had multiple bidders that flew in from
all over the place, all over the world, really.
All over the world. They flew in, to our little town in Vero to preview items in person. And I think what a lot of them were saying was the type of items you had really needed to be inspected in person.
Well, and going back to the provenance, the family of the swords had somebody come into the house and clean out the estate and take the swords out and threw out the original documentation for all the swords, which made it very difficult, making everybody want to fly down and physically see them in person because there's so many fake swords out there. And to find out we had a really magnificent collection was very exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting.
So if you're listening, I'm not encouraging hoarding, but if you have paperwork or something you feel is important, put it in a file, put it somewhere aside. In our business, one of the best things is to get paperwork, is to get history, is to get provenance. I'll never forget, we had done an estate over on the beach side back in, I think it was 2018. And the woman that passed away had written notes on just about everything. And so you turn over the back of a painting or underneath a vase or whatever, and she hand wrote where she got it from, or she took notes inside of the pieces. And, boy, that was helpful. Just identifying it. And, and nowadays the internet has helped to get that information out there. And then there's been a lot of items we've had that, boy, we didn't know what they were until the auction took place. And discovering it.
And discovered.
Yeah. Well, and going into the next part of our discussion today is really the benefits of selling through auction, and not just any auction, but a trusted auction, an auction that,
has a good reputation.
Good reputation. It goes a long way. And we've built that in 20 years. And I think that shows. And we've had a lot of people that, we might not have seen them for 5 or 10 years, and they're still in business. And, it is nice to operate a business for that long. And And even with you bringing me on board, a lot of auction houses are family run, or owned and operated, and it's a family, tight knit group, and that builds trust too. Working with family and whatnot. But as far as the benefits of auction, price discovery is a huge part of our business. You find so many mixed things online. I mean, what's one of the hardest things for us is when someone's like, hey,
I Googled it.
yeah, I Googled this and this website's saying it's worth $20,000. And I'm like, well, no, that's not correct. That is the tricky part, is the internet's almost overeducated us of what, the value might be. But with an auction, it's taking a little bit of a risk. You roll the dice. But our goal is to represent the buyers and consigners. So we want to sell those authentic and great items, but we also want to maximize value for our consigners. And putting something in an auction is doing that, especially because we have a global presence. Look at the Japanese auction we just had. I mean, we sold to
all over the world.
Yeah, I just had a publication write an article about our recent Japanese auction. I think we had 5 different countries and 30 different states that we sold different items to. Maybe it was a few more countries, but smaller. I mean, it was one of our smaller auctions. It was under 200 items, but to have that many different unique buyers from different states and different countries really shows that we can, broadcast,
reach the audience.
Yeah, right. It's a global presence, and establishing price. We've actually had, in the years of doing this, a lot of items that were really one of a kind. And I feel like we've been able to help a lot of people with researching their own items with some of the things we've sold. And that's the great part of having things online and selling things, is that you have an honest, fair price, and a real estate price. It's like I said, with the inflated prices you see online, sometimes you're looking at these prices and you're like, this doesn't make any sense, whereas you go to, a good auction house and a legit auction house, they're showing you accurate data, and it's helpful. Like, look at real estate. How do you gauge the price of a house? I mean, you call an expert, right? Whether it's a property appraiser or a realtor or whatever, but comps, I mean, comps
of sold homes, not homes that people have overinflated.
Yeah, my next door neighbor is looking to be a millionaire, but yeah, that is an important part. Is you're right, sold prices of homes, and that gives you a pricing point for what your home is worth. So with us too, the same thing. You've looked at some of the sold items we've had, and it gives you, wow, this is what it could be at auction, and the graphs change. I mean, we've seen some of the hard times. When I started back in 2010, the market was much different. Especially coming out of the financial crisis and stuff. And then, COVID was another one. When the year COVID hit, it was actually the first year we stopped doing the in-house auctions. And
boy, we thought we were done. We really didn't know how it was going to go from there.
It was a scary time, operating a business, especially the fear of the unknown. And in a lot of ways, it's really helped our business, with people going online. And unfortunately, as retail is kind of going the wayside, auctions are a great way to, get a good glimpse of what people want. And a big part of our auction is we hand curate our items. We're going out. We're getting items. We have a physical location, which is important. We have an address. We have a place you can look at items. You can feel comfortable there.
And as I say, when you call our auction, you have a person that picks up the phone.
Yeah,
you're talking to a person.
Yeah, we don't redirect you to press a number. You get to deal with us. Hopefully, you deal with us on a good day where we're not overwhelmed. As you can imagine, a small business, sometimes
there's some days,
have certain people on the phone answering. But yeah, you're right. You deal with a person, and I think that really goes a long way in speaking with someone, or even when people, come to preview, we're there for them to ask questions, to maybe tell some stories, to help with the items. How often has someone asked you your opinion on a piece of jewelry or a painting? Or
every auction.
Yeah, every auction. So what our knowledge and expertise is hopefully passed on to that person. And even with some of the younger generation, what do they want, and what are they buying? And those trends have certainly changed. But in connecting with our auction, and hopefully, some of the youth and stuff, we can maybe promote some of these items that people think, hey, I'll go to Home Goods and buy this decorative, made in China painting for $50, when you could say, hey, I'll go to an auction and buy this original amazing watercolor for, a couple $100, or 20,000 if you really want something.
Really special.
Yeah, exactly. But, then the other thing is we get asked a lot of questions on what is it worth, and back to that established price. What is it worth? A lot of people respond, whatever someone's willing to pay, right? But, we do get into what we love is the bidding wars, right? I mean, those two people really want that item, and they will pay whatever it takes. Right. One of the recently exciting items we had was last year was the Tiffany obelisk.
Oh, that was amazing.
Came from an unbelievable estate down south, and we actually were there after one of the major auction houses had come through and had taken a few things, and there was just an amazing collection of items that we really felt we would bring to auction. But we had this Tiffany obelisk, and we had these, I think it was 2 phone bidders and an internet bidder, and speaking of phone bidders, we love when people bid on the phone or bid directly with us, because it still gives that interaction, with people on the phone. But those two, I think it was the 2 phone bidders, or maybe the second phone bidder finally backed out, but man, they bid it up to, I think it was 18 or 20,000 or 20,000. Yeah. But I remember the person on the phone is like talking, and it was a husband and wife, and they're like, do you want to go any higher? I don't know. Yeah. Let's go. And they really wanted it. So we love those bidding wars, and back to the point of those rare unusual items is sometimes, you will find an item that there'll be multiples of, but then when is that item going to be available again?
Right.
Even in my, auction experiences, I mean, there's been items I bought that I would just hate to part with, I mean, they're really special and sentimental to me. I can't take it with me at some point, so they will be sold eventually. But, with a lot of these items, the opportunity is there through an auction to buy them, and you really got to jump on it. You never want to have, was it buyer's remorse for not bidding one or two more times to get that item?
How many times after an auction does somebody call up and say, I really wanted that. Can I buy it?
Very often.
It's sold already. We can't sell.
Yeah, especially you're right after the auction. If that buyer backs out, or if they don't want it, and I'm looking at the invoice and I'm like, man, they paid right away.
They want it.
Yeah, they really want that item. So unfortunately, it's no longer available. We did talk a little bit about like that, the arrow, the quiver holder. But another thing that we had that was interesting when we talk about authenticating items was we had an Elvis suit recently that we were told was
really, that was actually probably 10 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, it sure was.
Yeah. So a gentleman brought the Elvis suit, all studded up, and it was like,
and pictures of the suit with it behind the museum, like glass, and I mean, he really played it really good.
He's talking about how this Elvis suit is, the last one he wore and everything. Right. So here's our authentication process. We had someone try it on. We had a lady that was about 5'4", 110 pounds, and she couldn't fit in the suit.
Her leg couldn't fit.
Yeah, that was our authentication process.
Since Elvis was probably at his heaviest during that time frame.
That was big Elvis back when he, I guess this, it was one of his last, supposedly his last shows.
Maybe it was baby Elvis.
Child Elvis before he was famous. But that's kind of a funny authentication process. But this item comes in, we're all excited about it, and we're gonna promote the heck out of it as this original Elvis suit. But in our authentication process, we couldn't validate it. We didn't want it out there, and so therefore we had to pass on it, which is again building trust within the items we sell, is that we want to make sure what we are selling is authentic.
Right.
And again, ultimately it's up to the buyer to authenticate and look and do that, but we do our best to help them.
Exactly.
Or even putting the catalog online. I mean, we are catalogs online for a few weeks just to get people to ask questions and whatnot. Well, we're kind of wrapping up our quick little first session here. But if you're listening in, we'd love to have, comments, feedback, questions, so we can address them. There's a lot to go over. There's a lot of questions that are within our auction and within the industry. And if you guys have some, things you want us to address, we'd love to discuss those with you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.